Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I am not in the room, but in the room in Toronto is my friend and our trusted producer, Max Kerman. We also have our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. And working the dials is intern Erica. Guys, this is a very unique episode because we're not in the same country. I don't think I've ever done a call-in before where all of you guys are in the room and I'm not. And I feel like the group's been doing a lot of traveling. Max, you've been hopping around with Kyle Dubas of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to talk about that. Shane, you were in Detroit with your wife. You went down to a Raptors game. We're going to talk about that. And the reason I'm not in the room is because I'm in Mexico. I'm on a vacation with my family, but there's never a vacation from the podcast, and that's why we're doing this on a Thursday. It's NBA trade deadline day. I'm jacked. I'm on vacation. I'm loving it. How's everybody feeling in the room?
Pretty good. A little tired. My private charter plane got in pretty late last night, so I didn't get a ton of sleep.
Yeah, I had a late one too. I've been hanging with Jared Diggs a lot lately, and it's hard not to have a late night with him. He's like, dude, just one beer, and then he will take me on like a weird adventure, and we went to an abandoned mansion. So
is this part of his surprise thing that he's working on? I guess we can't talk about it.
No, his surprise thing is different, and I'm like a part of it, like to a huge extent now. So it's like now there's a lot of pressure on me. But yeah, there's a live show going on in maybe April, but it's going to be pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I went out for lunch with him, and then I was late for my haircut. And so, but he wouldn't stop talking, and he wouldn't eat his lunch. So I was like, I have to go to this haircut, and now I'm so late that you have to drive me. So I'm going to go to the bathroom. You start eating your food. When I'm back from the bathroom, you're going to drive me to my. Yeah. And then he ended up coming to my haircut and just sitting. There's a bar at this place, Henry's in Hamilton, and so he just ended up having a beer at the bar, talking to the guy who owns the barber shop while I got a haircut, and then he drove me home. So it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's always late to pick me up when he does pick me up, and then he's always late to take me home. So I kind of got mad at him. We had like a mini like passive aggressive fight for like the first time.
Oh wow!
Because my phone died and he left me out in the cold for half an hour waiting for him to pick me up.
Oh no!
And I was like, I just walked to Anchor Bar because I didn't know what to do, and I just started eating wings. And then I luckily found a friend of his, and I go text JR and tell him I'm at Anchor Bar.
Oh. And
then he came in a little upset. And I was like, Jerry, you can't leave someone waiting out in the cold for half an hour. I told you my phone was dying. You had to be there at 6:45. So, dude, I tried to do something nice for you. I'm like, what's nice? He's like, I pick you up. I'm like, I don't care if you pick me up. I can walk to the venue. Anyway, it was a big fight for us. And I'd just like to apologize right now to him for yelling at him. But anyway, Bong Mansion is very cool. If anyone knows what that is. I went there and... it's like a big abandoned, I guess a mansion. People know it's big, but it's abandoned. And this multimillionaire, he made $250 million in 2 days, this guy. Because he started the green rush, they call it, in Canada, which he made the first weed company open for the stock market. Okay, yeah. 2 days, made $250 million. And then he bought this mansion but to tear it down. But for 8 months, it was just standing up. So he gave it to all these like skateboard kids, and they made a documentary on it. Vice did a thing on it.
Oh, crazy!
And it's all spray painted. And
where's it at?
It's in Burlington.
Oh wow!
Apparently, it's very popular. Like there's been 1 million content creators doing stuff there.
Oh.
And Jared just picks me up. He doesn't tell me where I'm going. End up going to Bong Mansion. There's all these weird skateboarders. I'm kind of scared of these people. And then I go to the basement. There's this huge party. It's run by this guy, Ben Rispin. He said said he knows you.
Yeah, we toured together.
And like monster trucks there, and there's all these like DJs, and there's like joints everywhere. Like every single table is filled with joints, and there's like cookies everywhere. And,
oh wow!
And I start smoking the joints.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know.
This is on a Wednesday night?
This was on a Tuesday night. Wednesday night I hung out with JR again, and again he took me to like another like abandoned location. Anyways, it's been a long couple days. And
what does Alex make of this? Like JR again, kind of?
Yeah, well, she's kind of learning to enjoy time on her own. Like I've told her to, because anyway, I've been getting into personality types because a pod fan messaged me about like enneagrams. Like maybe you've seen it on our Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I was looking at all personality types, and I was figuring out Alex's personality type, and she's a person who can't be alone. So we're working on that. So she's kind of learning to enjoy.
Oh wow,
to be alone.
Another diagnosis from Shane.
Well, you're a 3. Max is a 2. I'm a 4, and 4s really like to self-diagnose themselves and figure themselves out. It's in the thing. Yeah.
Wait, I'm a 3?
You're a 3.
I'm intrigued.
Max is a 2.
What does that
Mike's
mean?
a 9. Well, we can get into it later, I guess.
Okay, let's get into it later.
But sorry,
I'm a 9.
you're a 9, Mike. 9's not necessarily the best, but it's a pretty good one.
Is there a good or a bad?
It's funny that you say 9 because 9 is actually my favorite number, and I won a bunch of money at the casino here at the resort betting red 9 on roulette. So 9 comes up again. I've got to look up this personality type though.
Define a bunch of money.
Like $100.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. You'll go a long way in Mexico too.
It was an exciting win with all the guys.
Oh, and you guys FaceTime me really late at night too. That's why I'm a little bit tired.
You guys went out last night. I thought you guys were babysitting, and the wives.
This was 2 nights ago.
2 nights ago. Okay.
But Max, you were on a private jet.
Yes. Yeah, I had a crazy couple days.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know if I mentioned this on previous pods. I got a text from Kyle Dubas about 3 weeks ago saying, "Are you free in this window of time?" And I said yes, because the band wasn't on tour or anything. And he said, okay, we're having this mentors trip, and I was going to invite my grandma, who's the number one influence in my life, but she's not quite up for the travel because we're going to New York with the team, so would you like to come? And I was like, kind of confused what he was talking about, because it was like, am I your mentor? Are you my mentor? Do I have to give a talk? Like, what do you want from me, basically? And they said, no, just come hang out with the team, and all the players are going to bring somebody in their life who was important to them, and the staff, the people that work closest with the team, get this opportunity as well. So I was like, this sounds amazing. Yeah, Monday morning we all get together at Scotiabank Arena. There was the breakfast for everybody. I was very nervous, actually. It felt like the first day of college or something, where there's just like a bunch of people you don't know. I kind of sit next to somebody else who's sitting by themselves. Like, it's like you're like at lunch at the first day or whatever, the first day of school. And they have a welcome breakfast. They kind of welcome everybody. Brendan Shanahan comes down and he gives this really kind of nice speech about like what a mentor is. And he references like the Odyssey or some other like book that references mentors. We watched the morning skate, which was cool. Oh, we sit in on a team meeting. We're basically in the locker room. Everybody's just like sitting on the bench and on the floor, and Sheldon Keith kind of goes over the game plan for the game. And then we come back to the rink that night at Scotiabank Arena, and we watch. It was a disappointing outcome. They had the lead, and they ended up losing. But it was very cool to be like meeting people who had played a very big part in all these players' lives. So like the goalie coach, for instance, he's from Winnipeg, and he invited the kid on his street when he was like 10, who was a little bit older and would just practice taking shots on him because he was a young goalie at one point.
That's cool.
Yeah, so this guy is now a correctional officer in Manitoba, but he's kept in touch with the younger kid down the block, and that younger kid down the block is now the goalie coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so that's the kind of person who's invited. There was former teammates like John Tavares. I talked to his mentor, who was one of his coaches growing up. Tyson Barrie brought his grandpa, who's like one of the biggest Leafs fans there is. So it was just interesting to like hear the different stories of all the people that were involved.
Did anyone bring anyone cool?
No, I was by far the coolest.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're the only celeb one.
Well, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did turn into a lot of picture taking. So it was like people wanted to get photos with the Leafs guys and like the various venues we were in, but then there's also a lot of pictures with old Max.
Like big fan of Max?
Yeah, or just like they kind of recognized me as like the guy from the Arkells or whatever. But actually, one of the guys who I want to give a shout out to, his name's Reed Mitchell, and he has been with the Leafs for 20 years. He started as like the video guy, and he is now kind of the director of scouting. And he's been like one of these guys that's like through every administration, every GM, every coach, like he's been there. But he has the most like infectious energy, and he's really hilarious, and he swears like a sailor. Like the first time I met him, I don't think it's as cool to say. He's like, "Hey Max, good to meet you. Let's fucking go. We're having a fucking good time right now." But just it reminded me of what Tom Power said about interviewing people. Is like if you can swear, it is because the environment's sort of formal because it's kind of a serious like professional organization. But if you can swear in the right way, and it really puts people at ease. So shout out to Reed because he was a big part of putting this whole thing together, and he made everybody feel really, really good. He was incredible leadership. So
sounds like a 7.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do the personality types first, just so we
No,
so we
we'll
know
get
what the
to
fuck you're talking about every time. Like,
Well, Alex is a 7, so
Okay.
it's that type
Okay.
of like high energy, smiley type.
Yeah.
people.
Shane, where do you find this test? Is there like a link or something? Like, how do we read these personality types?
You just look up the Enneagram test, and then there's
how do you
this
spell Enneagram?
ENN gram. You know, if you get it's Google, you get close to it, and then there's like how many tests close to sounding like Enneagram are there?
Yeah.
And then there's this really good professor on YouTube, and he spends about 30 minutes on each type. And if you actually feel like you are that type, it feels like a roast because the guy knows you so well, and everyone thinks they kind of have this unique personality, especially 4s. So, and you really realize people are broken down into only 9 types.
Wow.
It's really fascinating. So now I'm analyzing everyone. So I got into every single one of our friends. Dan is the biggest 8 in the world.
Oh, wow.
I messaged him about it. Now Dan's obsessed with it. And Dan's like, oh my God, I am an 8. And like, he really got into analyzing it.
I'm a 2?
I thought you were a 5, and then Dan convinced me you were a 2, and I looked it up, and you are a 2.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, continue. I don't mean
No,
to
no,
derail
All
the
right,
story.
Max. I wanted to ask you because you flew private, and not a lot of people get to do that sort of experience. So walk us through what that is like.
It's pretty cool. So basically, Tuesday morning we go to the Ford practice facility. We watch them have a little skate around. By the way, Kyle warned me that there's food everywhere we go, and it's true. I need to start our way off challenge again. I think I probably gained like 10 pounds in 3 days because literally there's just like a spread of food in every room we walked into. It's like at the Scotiabank Arena in the players' locker room. We get to the hotel. There's a spread of drinks and food. There's just like if you ever need a full buffet, you just turn around and it's there just waiting for you, and it's all free.
Do the players know not to eat that because they've been like fucked by it before?
No, I think the belief is that the players are eating a lot because they're working out a lot. Like I think they're just their calorie intake is.
Is it not healthy stuff though?
No, it's a lot of healthy stuff, but you can also get there's also like an ice cream bar and stuff too. Yeah.
Which item were you gravitating towards the most?
Well, I try to be good about it. A lot of like chicken breasts and kind of vegetables and stuff like that. But there's like cookies everywhere, and I love cookies. And when you see like a good looking free cookie, it's hard not to take it.
Do you like cookies? I just had the best cookie of my life the other day.
I love
Where?
cookies.
Okay, I'll
Look
bring
Gourmand?
some next time.
Oh.
No, this really fancy pastry place at Union Station.
Oh,
right
interesting.
beside the Pilot Coffee.
Oh,
Have you ever had a Le Gourmand cookie?
That's the best cookie.
It's the
fucking
best
city.
cookie.
Le Gourmand is.
It's gonna blow your shit cookie out of the water.
It is. It's
Le
it's a
Gourmand.
place at Queen and Spadina,
Good.
just south of Queen Street.
Yeah, that.
It's a little like a bakery lunchy place.
Okay.
And they sometimes have samples out, which is the best. And and it'll blow your mind.
It's right beside the McDonald's on Queen Street.
Yeah,
like
just a little
down the
south of
street.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Queens Spadina.
I don't know East West, so
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, we leave the Ford Performance facility, and it was kind of fun. There's a bus because there's like a team shuttle basically that's taking us right to Pearson. Kyle says, just drive with me. So Kyle and I drive up. We park there's a private airport just north of Pearson where we leave our cars because for American games we have to go through customs back at Pearson. So we leave our cars because we're going to be landing at this private airport when we get back late on Wednesday night. So we get on a little team shuttle from that airport, pulls up at Pearson. There's cops waiting for us basically to like let us have like a straight shot right through security and customs too. Basically, do
you even need your passport?
Yeah, I know you're still going through customs, but there's just no line because the police have like escorted you kind of through everything. And Dubas and I are sitting at the front of the shuttle, so we get off first. It's kind of funny, like every time we got on a plane or a bus, Dubas and I like were at the front, and all the players are like I was the brass, like I was the kind of the big shot, and like the players were like in the back. Kind of.
Out of politeness, they wait for you two to leave first.
Well, yeah, no, we're at the front of the bus. We get off first. Okay. We pull up right to the gate, and it's in the Air Canada U.S. departure, so it's like something I'm familiar with. But the cool thing is that there's no waiting at the gate. It's literally you just walk right onto the plane. And I had a seat numbers like F22 or whatever, but then they had all the seats with name tags on like the headrest basically. So I'm like. So it's like Brendan Shanahan, his mentor, and then right behind it's like Kyle Dubas and Max Kerman. It was just like very cool, and like we're in the second row of the plane. plane takes off. One thing that's very interesting about private planes is there's no announcements. It's basically just, there's no like going through the like, in an event of emergency or whatever, that shit. It literally just starts to go.
So you just knew how to buckle your seatbelt.
Yeah, I just did it myself. Yeah. It's an hour flight to New York, but they still, again, we had just eaten a big ass meal at the Ford Performance Center. And then they're like bringing around menus. It's like another 4-course meal for literally like an hour flight.
Are they playing any movies in there?
I mean, they had it was an Air Canada flight, so you had the in-flight entertainment. One thing I was thinking about it though was I'm a bit of a nervous flyer, and so anytime turbulence starts to happen, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, usually I go, "Excuse me," like if someone in the band, I'll just kind of. This needs to be max time, and I'll put in really happy music in my headphones and just sort of try to.
Obama speech.
Yeah, or listen to Obama speech. I just try to imagine happy things, but I was like, I can't do that with Kyle. I need to seem like I'm more of a man than that.
So you kind of just pretend you're not having a mini panic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's hard.
But it was good though because everybody else flies so much that because the ride back especially was pretty bumpy, but. They fly so much that it's like they could not care less, and everyone's like carrying on in their conversations or whatever.
Because that really can exacerbate it if you're with people who don't fly a lot and you see like someone else kind of freaking out.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm justified here, and then you can freak out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's right.
Because I'm a nervous flyer too, so I know what it's like.
But when everyone else really doesn't give a shit about the turbulence, then you're like,
calming.
It's kind of calming. It was a good lesson for me. So. We land in Newark and take the team bus. And I'm thinking to myself, man, checking into this hotel is going to be a fucking nightmare because whenever our Kel's checking into a hotel and there's like 8 of us, it usually takes fucking like 45 minutes. Like, I fucking hate checking in hotels so much. But I was like, how are they going to check in? Because there's probably about like 125 people on this trip. Think about all the players, all the staff, and all their mentors. 100 people? I don't know. A lot of people. We've pulled into this fancy hotel. It's a hotel that's so fancy that the reception's not on the first floor. You know, fancy boutique hotels, sometimes like the reception's on the 25th floor or something.
No.
Well,
never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know those hotels.
That's happened to me a couple of times. And this hotel was very fancy, but we basically everybody walks into this like kind of reception room, and all of our keys are just laid out right on a table. So just everything is so well organized. Go up to my room, I walk in. As soon as I walk through the door, the blinds start coming up.
No.
Yeah, like it's like an.
But are you a little concerned at that point? Like they're monitoring me? Like is there a camera in the room?
No, it's just like it's a smooth operation. Everything is dialed in.
It just senses a person.
It just
in the
senses.
room. What if you want them closed though?
Well, then but then there's dimmers and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a brand new hotel, the fanciest hotel I've ever stayed in by far. I stayed in the Delta. They put us up in the Delta, which is like, in my opinion, one of the nice hotels in downtown Toronto. This hotel made the Delta seem like a 2-star motel.
Right.
That's how fucking good it was.
It's like Le Gourmand versus Erica's Cooking.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun. Like the whole time we're there, I'm just asking Kyle like a million questions about his job, and he's very sort of forthcoming and honest. He doesn't. And at one point, I was like, Kyle, like you don't strike me as somebody who's like really angling for like to get that next job promotion. You know, sometimes you can like feel a schemer. Kyle does not feel like a schemer. I was like, do you interview really well? Like, what is it about you who's incredibly like focused and hardworking and smart and thirsty for more knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. But what is it about you that has gotten this job? Because you're like the youngest one of the youngest executives in the league, and everybody who's working for you is in some cases 10, 20, 30 years older than you. Because like you look around at the other coaching staff and other people in the organization, they're much older than Kyle. Kyle's a year older than me. And he was just like, yeah, I've only had one job interview in my whole life when I had to interview for the Sioux Greyhounds. And, you know, when Shanahan called me to get this assistant GM job a few years ago, I didn't know I was being interviewed. It was more of a conversation, and then he hired me. And now I'm here. Like it was just sort of a very like unlikely path to running the biggest team in sports. So in Canadian sports. And so we end up going out for dinner at this very fancy New York steakhouse. Kyle's like me. He doesn't like to take the buses very much. So if he can always walk to the venue, he'll always do that. So we walked over together. And I ended up sitting. It was like a bunch of tables. So I was at the table with Brendan Shanahan, Kyle Dubas, and a few other people.
Are you scared to be alone with Shanahan? Because because Dubas is maybe your buffer for conversation?
No, I've hung with Channy once before. We kind of know each other a little bit. So, but it was fun. It was like they're just telling lots of stories. It really truly felt like a night out with the team. And Chan has obviously like lived in New York and has like, you know, they're all good storytellers and like clearly have spent a lot of time with each other. So there's a natural chemistry because these guys in the front office spend a lot of time with each other. They're always discussing whatever the next trade might be or who's playing well or what needs to be done with the player. Dinner was great. You know, they take their shit so seriously. I gotta say, it's like people are like dialed in all the time. And actually, Kyle, on a couple of occasions, we'd be talking and then he'd have to respond to a text. And he'd be like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm listening to you. I can retain the stuff." I was like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, Shannon's wife, used to get really mad at me because she thought I wasn't listening to it, but I can remember everything." I was like, "Oh, really interesting." And he'd pull up conversations that we've had like within the last 5 years that I have no recollection of. He'd be like, "Oh, and then you said this thing," and I was like, "Geez, how do you remember?" He also remembered hearing "And Then Some" at the studio when we first met him. And before the song came out, and he was like, "Oh, and then you played this song." Like his memory is very good.
Kyle's a 1, by the way.
Kyle's a 1.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we go back to the hotel, have a couple of drinks at the bar with the other mentors. Of course, Kyle goes to sleep because he needs to be sharp the next day.
Does Kyle drink?
Kyle said like after 2 beers, he doesn't want to have any more. I think he has to be so focused. He says, anytime I've ever had more than 2 beers, the next day I'm not operating at full capacity, so I just don't do that anymore. Oh, but what he said was, so we're talking about him going to Brock, and this is on the plane on the way home yesterday, and I was like, do you know a friend of mine who went to Brock? He's your age. His name's Julian Foreman. He's like, "Oh, the name's sort of familiar." And I pull up a photo of Julian. He goes, "Oh, I remember that guy. He was the skaterish kind of guy."
Yeah.
Like he was very. I was like, that's totally him. I was like, yeah, and I was telling him about our relationship, and I was like, Julian's a new father. He had a baby a couple days ago, and I showed him the picture of Julian holding his baby with his nipple ring, and I was like, he still has a nipple ring. He's still doing his skatery things, and he got a kick out of that. But I was like, it was just impressive that he remembered all that shit. But anyway, the next morning, waking up to go to the morning skate and get in the elevator. Who's in the elevator? Draymond Green. All the Warriors are staying at this hotel as well. Whoa. So throughout the whole course of the day, everyone's like, "Oh, I just got a photo with Steve Kerr," which made me very jealous. Dubas said he was in the elevator with Steph Curry, like on the way to the game, and Steph's like, "Hey," because he could tell he was with the Leafs. He's like, "How y'all doing this year?" And then he was like, "Oh, you know, we're working at it." He's like, "Oh, cool. Good luck with that."
You were with Draymond though?
Yeah, I was in the elevator with Draymond.
Did you talk to him?
Well, I was in there with like wearing my Leafs jersey with like 3 other people that are wearing Leafs jerseys, and I was trying to think like, what is my jump off point in the conversation here? And I had just woken up too, so I wasn't particularly sharp, so I didn't really say anything. But I will say, Travis Dermott brought his grandma. Grandma Ruth on the trip, and she was in the elevator with me at this point. So Draymond was very gentlemanly with like saying hello to her and making sure that he like held the door open for her and like, have a good day. Like he was very good with like a grandmother in the elevator. Yeah, it was very cute.
But no photo.
No, didn't go for the photo. I did do a little Snapchat. Did you see that? Did I send it to you?
I don't have Snapchat.
No, but I put it in the Watch Me Nene group.
You put it in the. Yeah, it's in the basketball group.
I saw you put Draymond in big, in all caps.
Yeah, that was Draymond.
But I thought it was because he had an amazing game. Yeah, I didn't see the video.
Watch that video, yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, the game, we go to the Garden. More food is out. They end up losing. It's interesting, though, because not to belabor this long-ass story that really goes nowhere, but hopefully people find it interesting, is you're around such incredible privilege. Like this whole thing is the most like seamless operation. There's so many like professional people that take their job super seriously, making sure everything runs really, really smoothly. And like, you know, you're flying private, you're staying in like the nicest hotel in New York. Everything is like everything is like perfectly executed. And you're like, this is amazing. Probably the most interesting thing though that happened was, right after the game, the Leafs made a big trade. So the mentor of Moore who had flown out from California. Moore's from California. He's on this trip, and he thinks he's going back to Toronto with Moore. And we find out after the game that he's been traded. So Kyle would have just had to tell him right after the game. This is all happening in a 25-minute window because by the time the game is over, we're supposed to be on the bus within half an hour. So he has to go tell Moore. Moore has to tell his buddy that I'm not going. You have to go back to Toronto to get your shit at the Delta because you have a flight to go back to LA where you're from. So it's that dynamic was really interesting, and just seeing which players might be more affected by it.
Any tears?
No tears, but I think luckily Moore's actually from LA and he got traded to the Kings, so that was probably a silver lining to it all. But yeah, it was, and also the backup goalie Hutchinson, who's been playing a lot more now because Freddie Anderson's out. His mentor on the trip was really, really nice guy who was Hutchinson's goalie coach. So on the bus on the way back to the plane, I'm like, oh hey, good to meet you. What's your name? Who are you here with? And he was like, oh, I'm here with Hutchinson. And oh, how'd you know? He's like, I was his goalie coach. But it was his mentor felt somehow responsible or something.
Be there anymore,
or it's I feel bad because my guy because the team. I think a lot of Leafs fans would be upset with Hutchinson's performance after those games, and it's one of those things that it's I'm it's not your fault, man. It's he made it to the professional the NHL. It's that's pretty cool, but after a loss and you feel the sort of the scrutiny from the media and from the fan base, it's everybody is not in a good mood,
including the mentors.
Imagine, I wonder if after you trade away these guys' friends, if people are upset at you as Kyle's mentor that Kyle just traded these guys.
Well, I think Leafs Twitter though was actually pretty happy about it because I think we got a backup goalie in the trade. So a lot of people were like, Max Sturm is doing a hell of a job mentoring Dubas. He got him through that trade.
Is there a Leaf on the team who's being recognized on the street where people are getting his autograph? Or
we weren't really on the street much. No? Yeah, it was literally just hotel to bus to hotel. That was kind of it.
Did Matthews bring Justin Bieber as his mentor?
No, Matthews brought a player that he played hockey with, who's a couple years older, really nice guy named Zach. I did ask. I showed Kyle on the plane that I was getting credit for his big move. I was like, Leafs Twitter's pretty happy with me right now. I was like, do you ever check the mentions? Because just being a little bit a part of your worlds for the last couple of days, I was like, it's kind of insane. He's like, oh no, I haven't literally looked at my mentions in 7 years. I don't care about that.
He's probably the hottest. What do you call him, a GM?
Yeah.
He's probably the hottest GM in the league.
How's his hair? Receding? Thinning?
Great head of hair.
Wow.
Amazing head. He'd kill that hair test. Actually, it was funny though. On the way back from dinner, I was like, "Kyle, let's get a photo in front of this NYPD thing." And I put this on Instagram. But I was the first person who walks by. I was like, "Hey, excuse me, can you just take a photo of me and my friend here?" And the guy's like, "Nope," and just keeps walking. Wow. Next person walks by. Well, hey there, can you just take a photo? Nope. And the third person, I'm like, hey, do you mind if you just take a photo? And he's like, no. And he kind of and he kind of saw the desperation in my eye. He's like, okay, I'll do it for you. But it was almost 3 for 3.
But you wanted the photo more than Kyle, or Kyle wanted it more? Or is it equal?
I mean, I think I'm more of an Instagram happy kind of guy. So, but I think Kyle liked the photo. And he actually asked me, he's like, send the photo to Shannon. So I think
because you're his favorite band.
I don't know if we're his favorite band, but we're
that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Any awkward moments between you and Kyle? The conversation dries up, you're feeling uncomfortable?
Not really, actually. It was actually amazing because he's a really sort of forthcoming, honest guy. So, and I didn't know a ton about his family and upbringing and stuff, and that stuff always really interests me. And he kind of went through his family members and what Shannon's family's like and stuff, and that's always really interesting to me. And so we had plenty to talk about, and he had a lot of questions to ask about the band and recording and how certain things work and how we deal with certain issues, and it actually didn't drop at all. It was awesome. I feel much closer to Kyle now than I did at the start of the trip.
Does he play instruments?
No,
because a bunch of guys on the Leafs jam.
Yeah, I've seen that article.
Yeah. Interesting. And will he come on the pod?
I'm sure we can get him on the pod. I think last year during the playoff run, I asked him to come on the pod, but he was like, it's probably better to do it after the season because if I come on your podcast, there's like members of the media that I have to deal with every single day, and they'd be a little insulted.
He's already been on the pod, though.
Yeah, he's been on the pod.
Yeah.
Actually, one interesting thing that happened was I got to see live in action, which I think is okay to say, is that when Freddie was injured in the first game, it was like in the second period, or I think it happened in the first period. I think they didn't know exactly what it is, and I still think there's some uncertainty as to like how serious the injury is. I think they're still waiting to hear back from the doctors. But I'm in Kyle's little press box, and Kyle has to tell the media guy what to say to the media because everybody's like, "What's wrong with Freddie? What's wrong with Freddie?" So I could hear him sort of working through. So what's the language? What's the appropriate language to relay to the media about what the issue with Freddie is? Especially when you don't know what the answer.
So he will kind of talk out loud. He's like, "None of your business." No, I can't say that. Well, he's this, and then
he'd just say, "Okay, well, Freddie is like he'll be analyzed after the game. It's an upper body issue. Like we're figuring out just exactly what to say without misleading somebody, especially." And they were unsure about what it was at the time too.
But he practices aloud.
No, he's on the phone.
Oh, okay.
He was on the phone with the media guy. Yeah. Oh. No. Can you imagine if he's just walking around the room?
Yeah, I like that.
Just talking to himself. I got to spend some time with Sheldon on the plane too, or on the bus into New York.
How's Sheldon?
Super fucking nice.
Yeah.
Who is Sheldon?
He seems
He's the coach.
new head coach.
The new head coach that leaves. But yeah, he's really, really nice guy. But yeah, by the way, like Kyle's like remembered my first name's Robert. He's like, Robert. So is that weird with your first name's Robert, you go by Max? Because we did that to Leo. Like his son is Leo, but his first name is Walter. And he's like, Sheldon's first name is Robert too. And and Sheldon's also, he writes with his left, eats with his left, but plays sports with his right. I was like, that's me. He's like, I've never met anybody else who has that combination. But Mike Veerman, you have that combination too, right?
No, Mike writes left.
Yeah, but I play sports right.
Yeah. So you.
Yeah. So I eat left, I write left, and I shoot basketball right. I hit right. I like hockey right.
Yeah. Same thing with Sheldon. Hey, is your middle name Robert?
Jonas, isn't it? Johannes?
It is. Yeah.
But also Robert, right?
It's Robert Johannes.
Oh, we were both
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's both my grandfather's names.
Yeah, so there you go. So you, Sheldon, and I all share that in common. Our sneaky Robert, and we have this weird ambidextrous thing going on. But really, really nice guy. Very sort of kind of humble and low-key, but clearly takes his shit very seriously.
And to be ambidextrous, you have to be equal at both things with all things.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
The definition? Okay. No, well, whatever that's called. Any other questions? I feel like...
when will Nick Nurse be on the podcast?
Good question. We could probably make that happen soon. I don't know.
That'd be very cool.
That would be cool.
And Mike, we have to hear about this trip. How drunk are you guys getting?
Oh man, okay. The trip has been awesome. We have the dads have found some time to enjoy some drinks. Shane, you mentioned that we FaceTimed you or whatever. That was also the night I think I won casino money. But we got here on a Sunday, which was the Super Bowl. So we watched the Super Bowl here, like at the resort, and they did this whole thing where they had like San Francisco banner up, a Kansas City Chiefs banner up. They had like staff walking around in like Mahomes jerseys and like cheerleader outfits. It was pretty wild.
Where in Mexico are you again?
We're in like Cancun, like a part of Cancun, like Mayan Cancun or something. I don't know. I just got on a plane and shut up, man. But it was an amazing, it's funny because it's like we start on the Sunday and it's a Super Bowl, so we're kind of like getting the lay of the land of the resort. And so it was me, our friend Mike, our Jug, and then our friend Sean, and then our friend Felix is coming the next night. And we've talked about Felix a bit on this podcast. He's a German. He loves to party. He's got like 2 kids, but he somehow manages to party just as much as a guy without kids. So we were like,
he's also a great dad. Great dad.
Oh, great dad. Because when the wife and the kids go to sleep on the Sunday, they're like, oh, it was like a long travel day. Our landing was like crazy where like our plane actually as we were descending, our plane like actually like dipped, like it shifted, like the whole left wing went down and then tried to correct itself. So then the right wing went down, and then we came in like so hot that we bounced on the runway. So it was like this crazy landing. And I know that Max, you have anxiety with flying.
Yeah, I hate this.
Is that fun for you or very scary?
No, it was scary. I was definitely concerned. Danica was holding Winona, And then when the plane did that, we were pretty close to the ground. So I thought we might have to like go back up and then reapproach the landing. But I guess the pilot was like, I'm going to try it. But so as we came in really hot and then like, you brace, and when a baby's that young, they just said hold the baby. Like, it's not like the baby has their own seat or like a seatbelt or anything. So I'm just like, oh shit. I'm like I just didn't know how fast we were going to come in. So we bounced. Everyone on the plane like is very terrified. And then it kind of like hits the ground, bounces a couple more times, and then they immediately hit like the brake, so that like the wind, whatever tension is like slows the plane down. But you can't really see anything. So you're like, I hope there's enough runway. And I just held Danica and the baby and was like, yeah, like I don't know, like I wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to be our lives. But I was like, this doesn't feel normal. Like, I've been on a bunch of planes and I've never landed like this before. But anyway, back to the Super Bowl. Everybody survived. It was all good. But because it was the first night at the resort, and guys, like I'm here with like a bunch of champagne boys and our wives and kids. And when it's the first night after like our wives and kids went to bed, you kind of like, you got that first night energy. So you're like, oh, fuck it. And then we're just like, like Sean Dawson was ordering tequilas. And then so that became like, once that starts happening, it becomes a night. But we're like, oh man, we're going to blow it because Felix comes in tomorrow night. And we put all our eggs in the Sunday night basket because of the Super Bowl. And then, of course, like Felix gets into town and we're like, hey, Felix is here. So then we kind of go for it with Felix. Anyway, the long story long is that it's been a fun balance of like, dadding out and like sort of like doing your thing during the day with the kids and your family, and sort of like being a good partner, splitting time with your wife. But then also like, once they go down, it's like, are we meeting at the sports bar at 8:00? Stuff like that. And then you just kind of drink until whatever time. No matter how late you stay drinking, you're still up at 7 a.m. with the kids. But it's been super, 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 super fun. And last night, actually, all the ladies went out. Like, I stayed in last night. I don't know if you guys watched that Raptors game last night, but that was amazing. 12 in a row. But we all did the thing where we took the kids to dinner, all the dads, and then put them down. And like we were like, oh, like the wives, they'll go out. Like, we'll see them at like 9:30. They'll probably shut it down. Like, Danica didn't even get back till like after 1 a.m. And like I saw all these videos of them dancing at the disco. I was like, man, they went for it. So good for them.
Do you think they felt pressure to make use of that time to live it up as much as you guys are, or they actually wanted to?
I think it's one of those things where it starts out like where it's like, oh, those guys think they can party. We'll show them that we can still party. Mm-hmm. But then I think once they got into it, I don't think you do anything until 1 a.m. unless you're having an awesome time. So you know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, that's been it.
Are the men drinking more than the women, or is it equal?
Oh, I think you know the answer to that, Shane. You are a champagne boy.
Well, I just like asking the obvious questions sometimes.
It is funny because it's like everybody like kind of like does things, like Sean, Felix, myself, and Jug, we all like, we have different speeds and different paces. And like, when we know, like, it's like, oh, let's go to the swamp bar and get kind of drunk during the day. It's like, I'd be less likely to do that because I'm like, I'm still on dad duty. But then once Winona's down, then I'm more like, okay, like, let's get nutty. This will be fun. But then some of the other guys can totally like drink steadily throughout the day and still be a good dad and all that stuff. So everybody kind of moves at a different pace. But on the Wednesday, we all got a little bit tasted, which was very, very fun. We had like a fancy dinner at some like steakhouse here on the resorts, and like I was definitely pretty drunk during dinner, but it's good times.
Hey, Mike, are there any cliques with the babies?
Oh,
these are like the cool kids and the nerds and like the kind of the goths and the like.
Nah, well, because I would say so Winona and Sebastian, that's Sean and Chelsea's kid, they're like the same age, so they kind of like are at their own like level of development. They kind of like do their own thing, but then they'll kind of acknowledge each other. And then Jug's kid and Felix's oldest kid, they're like closer in age and they've spent time together. So those two are like pals, and then our kids are like just a little too young to really fully interact with those kids. So the kids are all kind of like their own little islands, and then they'll interact at times, but it's good, man. I like Max. You love kids. You got to come on the trip next year with everybody.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
And Shane, Alex is pregnant right now, so there's always a concern traveling down south because of Zika or whatever. But we're missing you guys.
I know. I'm really jealous because it's very helpful when you have a bunch of people with kids, because then you have other babysitters around, and then you can kind of party on your own.
You're also all on the exact same schedule, and if somebody needs to be like, oh yeah, we're out, like we got to bail because we got to do whatever for the kid, like everyone just understands. It's like, I don't know, it works. So hopefully it keeps growing every year as we we do a winter vacation with all of our friends. But yeah, it's been a fun time.
That's awesome.
But Shane, we in our agenda, like I said off the top, we've all been sort of traveling around. Max in New York, me here in Mexico, and then you went down to Detroit. How was that?
That was fine. Like, nothing really. I just drove to Detroit and saw a Raptors game. But Bong Mansion was very cool.
What do you want? Do you want to talk about this personality test thing? Or?
We can if I can kind of read overviews of you all.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I love being analyzed in this way too.
Yeah. I think
I'm not gonna lie, guys. While Max was prattling on about New York, I was reading up about a 9.
Yeah. What you'd really want to do though, there's a YouTube video in The Professor. If you just type in anagram and your type, you'll see like a guy. He kind of looks like Richard Attenborough. That's the guy from Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy, and he really goes in depth, and it's really fun to listen about yourself. Okay, but 9s, we'll start with you and what I believe you to be, Mike. This is actually to a pod fan analyzed us, and she deduced that you were a 9, and I tend to agree with her.
Oh, yeah, I saw that message, and I was like, what the fuck are they talking about right now? Mike's a 9, Max is a 2. I was like, what?
Well, she didn't know what I was. She's like, I can't pinpoint it. So I immediately did the test to see if it was accurate, and sure enough, I thought it was. Okay, so 9s are accepting, trusting, and stable. They are usually creative, optimistic, and supportive, but can also be too willing to go along with others to keep the peace. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict, but they also tend to be complacent, simplifying problems and minimizing anything upsetting. They typically have problems with inertia and stubbornness. At their best, indomitable and all-embracing, they are able to bring people together and heal conflicts. Basic fear of loss and separation, basic desire to have inner stability and peace of mind. Key motivations: want to create harmony in their environment, to avoid conflicts and tension, to preserve things as they are, to resist whatever would upset or disturb them. And then they give some examples of people. Matthew Broderick is one, Whoopi Goldberg, Woody Harrelson, and Gina Davis.
Hey!
Everyone always compares Mike to Gina, so I thought he'd enjoy that.
I've got the list of names right here, and you left out Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy. There's like 5 presidents on here, and you went with Whoopi Goldberg and Matthew fucking Broderick.
I'm trying to get some laughs here, Mike. This episode's been a little short on laughs. Okay. We have called personality type 9 the peacemaker because no type is more devoted to the quest for internal and external peace for themselves and others. They are typically spiritual seekers.
What number is this?
Number 9.
Oh, so we're still on 9. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to you, Max.
No.
And we can edit out all the stuff.
I like this. Okay, I'll keep going.
But I found it really interesting because when the guy who actually goes into the type 9, much better than this little write-up, but he talks about how type 9s always seem interested in, if you're at a party, he's going to be talking to everyone and people are really going to be gravitated towards that person. And even if the type 9 is not interested in what that person's saying, you will think they are.
Oh, that's so Mike.
Well, no, I've seen Mike. Yeah, like I've seen people talking to Mike, and I'm like, I know Mike, so I'm like, he probably thinks this person's a total bullshit artist or doesn't like them. Yeah. But he can still engage and make the person feel like, I'm really interested in what you're saying. And they have the ability to shut their mind off and actually think about other things while still engaging with the person.
Yeah, that's why Mike's so good at interviewing, I think.
Yeah.
He always makes you feel like you're being listened to.
And there's always you could be a 9 and have like a little bit of offshoot with like 8 qualities or 7 qualities. But the main component of Mike, I think, would be a 9. And then, you could like, there's always bad qualities to all these numbers because this one seems pretty heavenly. But I think by and large, Mike would be a 9. Would you guys agree with that? Or
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm a 9 though too.
You have 9 qualities, but there are good qualities in 2, which it seems like you want to get to number 2. Just might take me a second. Okay, let's get to...
Interesting.
I was actually waiting for the part where you guys asked if I felt that I was a 9.
Do you feel
and I was like, I can't wait for my punchline. Well, I was going to say that I wasn't listening, and then I didn't have the opening, and, when you call in, the timing never works.
It's true. That is a funny joke, and I always talk to you about how I have a joke queued up, and you never ask me when I want you to. Like you'll never be like, Shane, what do you think? And I'm like, Mike, I had the perfect joke, but you never asked me. So anyway, okay. And this is originally I thought you were a 5, but Dan has convinced me you're a 2, and this one's called The Helper. Okay. So 2s are empathetic, sincere, and warm-hearted. They are friendly, generous, and self-sacrificing, but can also be sentimental, flattering, and people-pleasing. They are well-meaning and driven to be close to others, but can slip into doing things for others in order to be needed. They typically have problems with possessiveness and with acknowledging their own needs. At their best, unselfish and altruistic, they have unconditional love for others. Basic fear of being unwanted, unworthy, or unloved. Basic desire to feel loved. Okay, key motivations: want to be loved, to express their feelings to others, to be needed and appreciated, to get others to respond to them, to vindicate their claims about themselves. Some examples: Kenny G, Paul Abdul, Priscilla Presley. We have named personality type 2 the helper because people of this type are either the most genuinely helpful to other people, or when they are less healthy, they are the most highly invested in seeing themselves as helpful. Being generous and going
backhanded, but yeah.
Yeah, there are negative things to each thing. Being generous and going out of their way for others makes 2s feel their most richest, most meaningful way to live. The love and concern they feel and genuine way they do warms their hearts and makes them feel worthwhile. 2s are most interested in what they feel to be really, really good things in life: love, closeness, sharing, family, and friendship. Okay, 2s are healthy and in balance. They really are loving, helpful, generous, and considerate. People are drawn to them like bees to honey. Healthy 2s warm to others in the glow of their hearts. They enliven others with their appreciation and attention, helping people to see positive qualities in themselves that they had not previously recognized. In short, healthy 2s are the embodiment of the good parent, and everyone wishes they had. Someone who sees them as they are, understands them with immense compassion, helps and encourages them with infinite patience, and is always willing to lend a hand. Okay, so here's kind of a bad part. However, 2's inner development may be limited by their shadow side: pride, self-deception, the tendency to become over-involved in the lives of others. Like, you kind of do that. You'll try to get everyone a job and everything. Good-hearted and all that. But... and the tendency to manipulate others to get their own emotional needs met. Transformational
Dan's reading into our relationship, our friendship right now.
Perhaps the biggest obstacle facing 2s inner work is to have their underlying center fear of worthiness. Beneath the surface, all type 2s fear that they are without value in themselves, and so they must be or do something extraordinary in order to win the love and acceptance from others.
Interesting.
In the unhealthy version of level 2s present a false image of being completely generous and unselfish, and of not wanting any kind of payoff for themselves, when in actuality, they can have enormous expectations and unacknowledged emotional needs.
Wow.
Do you feel that's accurate? Like sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just helping this person, and
Oh,
I
of
don't want
course.
anything, but you're like, come on.
No. I think there's some truth to that. I think I'm getting too much credit for being helpful, and because I think I'm kind of helpful, but I don't know if I'm.
But you're really good, I find. If someone's like a bag of shit, you'll be like, you know what's good about that bag of shit? I'm like, what? And you're like, they're really, and you can pinpoint the one good thing about that bag of shit. And you'll be like, I'm going to get that bag of shit a job. And then all of a sudden you're on some mission to hire. Like,
And then here I am.
yeah.
And I produce your
No, not a bag of shit. No, you're a 3. Erica, and I'll get into
Also, I don't
threes right
know.
now.
Am I that thirsty for validation though? I think there's a lot of truth
Well,
in that
here's
thing.
the
That was
thing.
the one part where I'm like, I think I'm like, I like validation for sure, and I think I am a bit of a schemer in the way it's being described.
Well, I think
But,
your validation comes from not wanting to be overly validated, and you get a sense of validation from that, like being altruistic, trying to help others,
Sure.
and that's what gives you your validation. And you want to be loved, like you're on stage, like begging for love, like singing your heart out. You'll tell other people to love each other, so in turn they will love
begging
you.
to be loved.
Right?
That is a move I use. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So like, everyone, look to your neighbor to your left. Love that person. Like, and in doing that, they're like, I love Max because he's so loving. So that's kind of your game, right? And you'll act like you don't want anything, and you might truly not want anything, but then if someone doesn't give you anything, you'll be like, hey, fuck off. I give you everything. You know what I mean? You'll be like, who's kind of
I just feel like
unappreciative?
a lot of the premise of number 2 is like I'm a manipulative guy.
No, I think that's the least, like, that's the biggest takeaway you're getting, because that's really the only negative thing. But everyone's kind of manipulative. You're just manipulative in that way. But everyone has their own little bag of tricks,
Okay,
right?
interesting.
Okay, Erica. So 3s are self-assured, attractive, and charming. ambitious, competent, and energetic. They can also be status conscious and highly driven for advancement.
Whoa.
They are diplomatic and poised, but can also be overly concerned with their image and what others think of them.
Yeah.
They typically have problems with workaholism and competitiveness. At their best, self-accepting, authentic, everything they seem to be, role models who inspire others. Basic fear of being worthless. Basic desire to feel valuable and worthwhile. Okay, key motivation.
Did you come to this conclusion, or did Dan Hamilton?
No, this is actually a pod fan, so I researched it.
Okay.
And then I thought, yeah, that sounds like Erica.
Hold on. So the pod fan diagnosed Erica?
Yes.
Wow. Cool.
Interesting.
So the pod fan also diagnosed you as a 5. I looked up 5. I thought 5. Then Dan said, no, Max is a 2.
Okay.
And then I agreed with that. And there are offshoots, but I'm just doing the main center of what you are. Because Dan actually got into it. He's like, he's a 2 with a wing 3 and all that shit. But I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. So people like you are Justin Bieber, who you mentioned earlier, John Bon Jovi, and Lady Gaga.
Oh my God. Great company.
Yeah.
JBJ.
Kenny G.
Okay, we have named this personality type 3 the achiever because when they're healthy, 3s really can and do achieve great things in the world. They are the stars of human nature, and people often look up to them because of their graciousness and personal accomplishments. Healthy 3s know how good it feels to develop themselves and contribute their abilities to the world, and also enjoy motivating others to greater personal achievements than others thought they were capable of, which is kind of like similar to Max. So Dan thinks you have a 3 offshoot too. They're usually well regarded and popular among their peers, the type of person who is frequently voted class president or homecoming queen, because people feel they want to be associated with this kind of person who acts as a stand-in for them.
Were you homecoming queen?
I was not, but I was voted best personality in grade 12.
You were? That's good.
That's good. Really
What a
good.
compliment, eh?
Yeah, great compliment.
Okay, 3s want to make sure their lives are a success. You'd agree with that, right?
I would, yeah.
Yeah, worried about that.
However, that is defined by their family, their culture, and their social sphere. In some families, success means having a lot of money, a grand house, a new expensive car, and other status symbols. Others value ideas, and success to them means distinguishing oneself in academic or scientific worlds. Success in other circles might mean becoming a famous actor or model, writer. Well, this is kind of bullshit. What's this going on about? I'm trying to find the negative part. 3s can become so alienated from themselves that they no longer know what they truly want or what their real feelings or interests are. In this state, they are easy prey to self-deception, deceit, and falseness of kinds. Thus, the deeper problem is that their search for a way to be of value increasingly takes them further away from their own essential self and its core of real value. Would you agree with that?
Interesting. Yes, to a degree, yeah.
Okay, so that is
That's pretty accurate, I think.
basic elements of 3. And are you guys curious about me?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most curious about.
Okay.
Well,
so-
after myself.
So this woman couldn't define me, the pod fan. So I actually took the test, and then so the test defined me as a 4.
Okay.
This isn't me.
So this isn't a self-diagnosis. This is actually based
This
on-
is what the test said based on. It's
You're-
a very quick.
You're
test.
a 4?
4, and then I researched it, and I was like, holy shit, I am a 4. And 4 is kind of an embarrassing one to be, because 4 is kind of the lamest one. And a 4, by the way, is the type to say something like that also.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 4s are self-aware, sensitive, and reserved. They are emotionally honest, creative, and personal, but can also be moody and self-conscious. Withholding themselves from others due to feeling vulnerable and defective, they can also feel disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. They typically have problems with melancholy, self-indulgence, and self-pity. At their best, inspired and highly creative, they are able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. Basic fear, they have no identity or personal significance. Basic desire to find themselves and their significance, to create an identity. Okay. We have named this type the individualist because 4s maintain their identity by seeing themselves as fundamentally different from others. 4s feel that they are unlike other human beings and consequently that no one can understand them or love them adequately. They often see themselves as uniquely talented, possessing special, one-of-a-kind gifts,
Yep.
but also as uniquely disadvantaged or flawed. More than any other type, 4s are acutely aware of and focused on their personal differences and deficiencies. Healthy 4s are honest with themselves. They own all their feelings and can look at their motives, contradictions, and emotional conflicts without denying or whitewashing them.
This is very accurate, I feel like.
Yeah, it's so accurate. They may not necessarily like what they discover, but they do not try to rationalize their states, nor do they try to hide them from themselves or others. They're not afraid to see themselves warts and all. Healthy 4s are willing to reveal highly personal and potentially shameful things about themselves because they're determined to understand the truth of their experience.
Whoa. Yeah,
So
this
that
is
they
so
can
accurate.
discover who they are and come to terms with their emotional history. This ability also enables 4s to endure suffering with a quiet strength. Their familiarity with their own darker nature makes it easy for them to process painful experiences that might overwhelm other types. Nevertheless, 4s often report that they feel they are missing something in themselves, although they may have difficulty identifying exactly what something is. Is it willpower, social ease, self-confidence, emotional tranquility, all of which they see in others seemingly in abundance. Given time and sufficient perspective, 4s generally recognize that they are unsure about all aspects of their self-image.
Wow.
Wow, that's really accurate.
So I thought that was pretty good. And when I got into the professor explaining it for like 20 to 30 minutes, it's funny because it feels like he's really roasting you. So I was just laughing the entire time.
Wow.
Because you realize how lame you are as a 4. Like 4 is the lamest. Like you want to be in a bad situation so you can be unique and tell your story of your crazy situation because your lore is so important.
Yeah.
So I notice when something really shit happens to me, I'm like, oh, this is good. This makes me seem so unique. Or
Yeah.
so I'm trying so hard to be unique, and I value that so much. And I'm always trying to figure out my special talent or what is unique.
And you've always been very brutally honest about stuff.
Yes.
Like about your experiences and things you've done.
Exactly.
Yeah, where other people would be like, I'm not
Right.
talking about that.
Yeah, revealing personal things
No.
to sort of, yeah.
Well, and it
prove
talks about,
something.
too, like if you're sitting at a table, a 4 will sit on the outside of the table just so they can show that they're different or they're outside. And I find I do that. Like if a bunch of people are sitting around, I'll kind of be on the outskirts and just be distant to be like, oh, I'm the distant guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I value that. So it is a really embarrassing one. And anyway, 4s get along with 7s a lot. And my wife's a 7. So
Oh, so what does a 3 get along? Or what am I? 2? What does a 2 get along
I
with?
didn't look up what that.
Sure.
I was very curious to look up people that
Are together.
I'm around a lot, and I wanted to try to figure out my wife because I've been having problems trying to motivate her to kind of do this project. And 7s are the hardest to motivate because they're always so happy and optimistic and looking toward the future that they cannot focus on the present, and they hate doing anything that's not fun. And that's my wife to a T. So I really understood my wife a lot better through doing this. So I think it's a fun test to do and kind of learn not only about yourself but your friends and your partner.
On like the Wikipedia page for anagrams, anagrams.
Enneagrams. E. Yeah.
Oh, is there like a criticisms, chapter in the Wikipedia page where it's like the problem with enneagram test is that it's controversial.
There's
because
a
of
problem with
blah,
the
blah.
Myers-Briggs one. A lot of people don't seem that to be accurate. And I took that one. Sorry for spitting. But that one seems to not describe me at all. The Enneagrams one seemed to nail it down so well that I truly believe it works.
Wow.
But maybe it only works for me. But it seemed to apply to others. And
Yeah,
Yeah, that seemed pretty accurate.
I'd say.
yeah.
What was just quickly the 5? Why you thought it was a 5?
5 was similar to 2, except you're a little bit more quieter and you're more of a person to be on like like listening at a party. Like people are still drawn to you, but you're not necessarily like a 9 creating the conversation. You're more observant and a part of the group, and everyone's including you, but you're not the person talking the entire time. You're more of a listener, and you can understand empathy a lot.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think you're a mix of 2 and 5.
Cool.
Cool.
Wow, this is good.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.